Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Nathan Graves Show. With me, your host, Nathan Graves. And this episode is another special episode because I have here a mind behind Dota Cinema, a website that creates a lot of Dota 2 videos and guides and such. It's SUNSfan.
What's going on, dude?
SUNSfan, thank you for your time.
No worries, good to be here.
Now, for some of the people that don't know, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see where to begin. I guess long story short, Dota Cinema is essentially me and a 20-year-old kid. Actually, he just turned 20 today, named Neil. He's from Norway. I'm from the US. And he started a channel called Dota Cinema that was essentially just hero previews for some of the characters in Dota 2. And it was horrible quality. I can't stress that enough. Absolutely god-awful quality, because all he could use was the international footage from videos way back in the day, which I guess is about a year ago now. And the worst part about it, for him at least, was his voice was just not good for that kind of a setting. And he was trying to find people to help him out, and he stumbled across me. I was with Game Replays at the time, and we just hit it off really well. And people seem to enjoy my, I don't want to say my content, but my voice and my personality and whatnot. So it's been a good ride so far.
Now, for some of the people who don't know, what is Dota 2?
Dota 2 is the sequel to a mod for Warcraft 3. The mod was called Defense of the Ancients, and I'm having a hard time remembering how long it was actually out for. I mean, I know Warcraft 3 came out in 03 and Dota not too long afterwards. There were a lot of different iterations, one of which was headed by Ginsu, or yeah, it was Ginsu, who is now head of League of Legends. So it's kind of like League of Legends, but before League of Legends, I guess you could say. So the sequel is headed by Valve, who, if you guys don't know who that is, then you might need to get out from under the rock. But Valve, and also Ice Frog, who is I think he's the most popular by far Dota. Well, he's not the creator. He was kind of like the guy just overseeing things, I guess. But he made the game. He made the original Dota competitive. He made it fun. Made it balanced, and he's just been really popular. So it's good to see that two great, minds, if you will, or organizations, I don't know what you want to call them, entities, have come together. And it's exciting times because, I mean, Dota 2 is pretty big right now, but it's still technically in closed beta. So I think it's in a unique position. So hopefully it'll continue to grow.
Now, what kind of stuff do you do for Dota Cinema?
Oh man, wow, that's a lot of different things. Well, originally I was just doing the hero previews, which I would write my own script, and it was just like spotlights, I guess. And I would just send the audio file over to Neil, and he would crap out a video. And that's what we did back in the day. And then over time, I started having a lot more say in what we did and started coming up with ideas. So I guess it's an interesting job, to say the least. And I have to say that I never would have dreamed in a million years I'd be able to, live off of something like this. But from week to week, it really depends on what, content's coming out. So for example, on Wednesdays, that's when the patch comes out typically. So a new hero or two may be out that we have to make previews of, which we have to do as quick as possible. Other than that, there's specific days we have set for different kind of, content. So for example, let's see, Tuesdays and Saturdays are our guide days. So we come out with a guide on a specific hero. Sundays are our top 10, which I'm directing, I guess is the best way to put that. And then Mondays are what we call fails of the week, which has been a bigger success than I originally anticipated, to be perfectly honest. But that's basically a three-man job. Me and Reeves do the voice content for that, and then Neil just does the video editing. So it's just an overseeing of everything and help with, pretty much every single video, and kind of an outlook, planning for the future type deal where always got to keep, got to stay at the top of your game so Dota 2 can grow. I mean, that's basically the goal overall, is to help Dota 2 grow and the community become established, because a lot of people don't think that anything can compete with StarCraft 2, but if anything can, I think Dota 2 is in the right place right now to do so.
What's the process that happens with coming up with your content, but more specifically the hero previews and the guides?
You mean as far as creating them?
Creating them and like how the writing process goes and how you decide who's gonna get a guide or not.
Okay. Well, you'll be a little bit disappointed to hear this, but well, I'll start with the hero previews. The hero previews, obviously, whatever hero comes out, I just write a little script for myself, which I have a couple that are like I do in advance because I feel like they're going to come out. But typically speaking, I don't do it until it actually comes out. So I just make it. It takes me like 10 minutes. Doesn't really take much time at all. Um, just record it, send it to Neil, and he does the video editing. So previews are pretty easy. The guides take a lot more work. As far as what we choose, it's pretty random. I'm not gonna lie. We try to switch it up between, not having too many of a certain type of class come out in a certain amount of time, but sometimes I just refuse to do a specific hero. For example, well, the way this works is we have a guy named Flawless come up with a bare bones guide, kind of like you'll see on, a bunch of different sites. Very bare bones though, and then I send that to Luminous, who's a caster, and he looks it over and sees if there's any mistakes, and he edits it, and then gives a couple, not even maybe a paragraph or two of input and whatnot, and then I take all that information and I create a long ass script, which typically once it's completed is like it's about 7 minutes or so. And of course Neil does the video editing for that as well. But the heroes, yeah, it's completely random. Like Flawless sent me a guide about 2 weeks ago on Nature's Prophet, and I hate that hero so much that I just have refused to do a guide for him. I am gonna wait till the last possible time to do that. So it's pretty random. If there's a lot of people really wanting a guide, then maybe we might look into that. It's not it's not like there's too many heroes that are like that, other than Invoker, which would be like a 40-minute guide. So I don't know if I want to do that either yet.
Is that why like there aren't guides for say like sniper as of yet?
Well, there's no. I mean, right now, what do we have? Like 40 guides maybe, and there's gonna be like 108 heroes, so we're only like a third done, if that. But Sniper, yeah, he's just a boring hero. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So part of it is, yes, we want to keep it even as far as how many intelligence, strength, and agility we do, at least to some degree. And then there is a bias type side where I hate a certain hero, so I just don't want to do it, or I just put it off as long as possible, kind of deal. So,
This is interesting. What are the type? What are the heroes in Dota 2 that you just absolutely hate?
oh God, now hate is a strong word, but there are definitely few. I'm gonna have to actually bring up my hero guide here. Well, typically speaking, I'll say strength heroes I love. I am obsessed with strength heroes. People that know me know that that is basically all I will play. So if you go into the intelligence section, I'm sure there's quite a few I can't stand. Anything that requires micro, can't stand. But I'll just keep it simple. Generically, I can't stand jungling heroes because I just don't want to learn how to be very effective at it, which is kind of weird for people to think about or people to hear, because it's considered one of the easiest things to do. And I just, like, even if I wanted to learn to be a good jungler, it wouldn't be fun for me. I like having interactions in lane. I like communicating with teammates and whatnot. And a lot of times people in the jungle, especially pubs, they just stay in the jungle. They just farm the whole game with Nature's Prophet or whoever, and that's just not that's just not fun for me. So I would say jungling heroes are my least favorite by far.
Is there a preferred hero that you like to play as in the game?
Life Stealer is my favorite. I play him a lot. uh, Honestly, I would have to say, although I like a lot of the strength heroes in general, most of them are still not even in the game. Like if I look at the unreleased heroes, which there aren't that many left, but if you look at it, there's, let's see, 4 intelligence, a decent amount of agility, and then like 10 strength heroes. So there's still a ton of strength heroes that have not come out that I personally love. One of which is Centaur, my personal favorite. Although he is just a piece of meat, but you know, nothing wrong with that.
Have you made any guides for heroes that you don't like?
Ooh, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of heroes I don't like, so I'm gonna have to open up my guides thing real quick. Let's take a look here.
Well, how about one that just sticks out?
once I create a guide, I just forget about it. I don't even remember what guides we've made so far, if that makes any sense. I mean, we did do Chen, and I barely knew anything about Chen. I had to talk to some people about that. Okay, like Bane. I can't stand Bane. Just awful hero. He's like I can't. I'm really bad at ranged heroes, mainly because I stick to strength so often. But he, the worst thing is ranged heroes that don't have any range, if that makes any sense. So, for people that don't know, there's like I'd say 600 is like the default range for like a ranged hero, as far as attacking goes. And the heroes like Bane who have what it's like 400 or 450 attack range. It's just brutal. It's like you're almost melee, but you don't get the benefit of having a lot of health kind of deal. So heroes like that is just ugh, not fun. Oh, Omni Knight. Okay. Forget all I said. Even though he's strength, Omni Knight is my least favorite hero in the game by far.
It's funny you say that because I have a friend that played as Omni Knight, and he was my support.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I love Omni Knight teammates, but and actually I wish I could look at my statistics because it feels like every single time I play against an Omni Knight, they win every single time. And then when I play with one, we lose. It's like a lose-lose no matter what.
Have you played the original Dota?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I originally, I guess played Warcraft 3 for however many years, like ladder and whatnot, as just like a casual thing. I was more of a Counter-Strike player. I played Counter-Strike for 9 years. Um, God, what a waste of time that was looking back on it. But anyway, Dota I played for 4 years as kind of like the secondary game to Counter-Strike, which I still played it quite a bit though. So 4 years of that, and then I finally could not take the Warcraft engine anymore, and I stumbled across, as some people would be kind of disappointed to hear this, stumbled across Heroes of Newerth, and it was like at the time it was like, oh my God, this is like the best game I've ever played. Like seriously. But unfortunately, over time, it just gradually got worse and worse and worse until the point like I was barely playing anymore. And then I got a key, I started doing Dota 2 work for Dota Cinema, and we got a key literally a week later. And I was ecstatic, obviously. And Dota 2 did have some major issues to start with, like the input lag and whatnot, that I was pretty disappointed about because I mean, one of the things that Heroes of News had down pat was the netcode, and it was really good. And Dota 2 to start with was just horrendous on that front, but they fixed it, and I haven't looked back. I haven't opened Heroes of Newerth since like December, and that's wow, it's already July, so long time ago.
Do you only play Dota 2, or do you also play other games like League of Legends?
I played League of Legends twice in my life. No, that's a lie. 3 times. 2 times with some guy that eats creeps and gains strength, and another turtle guy. No, I'm not a big fan of League of Legends. I don't believe in. I mean, I have no like a lot of people in the Dota 2 community just can't stand League of Legends players or Han players for that matter. And I'm from the side where like it doesn't matter what you play. I do feel that though competitively, there's no like saying competitive League of Legends is it's like an oxymoron kind of deal. Because you can't really have a competitive game where you have to buy things to be able to be better at the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not a big fan of that. But as far as games I play, I don't honestly. It's just Dota 2 right now. Maybe a little bit of Counter Strike Go, just to try to relive some of my past. But as I'm awakened to this frequently that my peak was when I was like 21. That's when your your reaction time starts to go downhill, and it's truly unfortunate because I'm 26 now, so I'm just an old man in the whole gaming scene.
Oh, come on, you're not that old.
Appreciate that. I'm an old man, I tell you.
Well, I'm 24. You're not that much older than I am. From what you can remember, what differences did you really see between the games of League of Legends that you played and Dota 2?
Ooh, well, like I said, I barely played League of Legends, but well, I mean, there's quite a few differences, such as you can gain. I think you have like a TP back to base anytime you want, kind of thing, or as opposed to Han and Dota, I guess. You have to buy that kind of. I don't. It's just little features like that that bother me, but the biggest thing was having abilities that were based off of how much you played, such as. And were you a LoL player or
Mm,
are a LoL player?
no.
Okay, well, I could be saying stuff that's incorrect, so apologies for anybody that's listening. But um, you could gain abilities like a blink, for example, on any hero based on how much you play the game. I just think that, I mean, it could be fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. It could be fun to, you know, pub and whatnot. It's a casual game. That's how I look at it, as a casual game. But on a competitive front, it's just it's not competitive. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's not competitive in any front.
If you had to explain Dota 2 to somebody who's never played the game or any game in the genre, how would you describe Dota 2 and try to convince them to play it?
Oh God, that is a tough sell. And I remember back in the day in the original Dota, I used to try to get a lot of my friends into it, and a few of them caught on. But you have to know what you're getting into before you get into it. Uh, like as far as the game mechanic or what the goal of it is, it's this is the thing. I will say this: one of the reasons I love doing Dota Cinema is because it relays information in a certain way that I have no problem, displaying to a general public. But if I'm talking to a friend, it is really difficult for me to explain exactly how the game works. It's very tough. Um, but essentially, the goal is to push down a bunch of. See, I suck at that. I can't explain it. It's horrible. What was the other question? I already forgot my train of thought. I lost my train of thought.
um, like, how would you describe the game and how would you try to convince somebody to play it?
Oh, convincing the play. So that's the interesting one, because the biggest negative to Dota is its enormous learning curve, and I will venture to say that it probably has the largest learning curve of any game I've ever seen in my entire life. And I could be wrong. There could be some card games that perhaps, have more to it, but there are so many mechanics, so many heroes, so many spells, so many different variations of everything that first of all, it's impossible to master. It's absolutely impossible. It's not even it's the learning curve is so large and it's so daunting for people, and that's the real issue. But I think the biggest issue, despite that, is the negative nature of the community. And I think that's something Valve's going to be working on shortly. The reason they haven't released the game yet, people would say, is because they haven't finished all the heroes, but I think that has nothing to do with it. I think if they open this up to everybody, they know they're going to get a lot of casual people, but those people want to kill themselves if they try to play without having some sort of buddy system or mentor system or something like that. And I think if you look at it from, like, I look at it from a Counter-Strike point of view. People in Counter-Strike, sure, they were a little douchey, but it wasn't near as hostile as Dota. And the question is why? Why is that? Uh, my answer is if you're in a Counter-Strike match and your entire team gets killed except for you, it's 1 versus 5. You still have a chance to be able to pull that off. And because of that, you don't get as mad towards people that, are dying. I mean, you still can get mad, don't get me wrong, but when you look at Dota, one person's feeding that can potentially most of the time ruin the entire game for you. So because of that, and because of the fact that the games last an hour, 40 minutes to an hour, which is extremely long when you compare it to something like StarCraft, which is like 10 minutes in a lot of times. And it's not comparable. I mean, it's definitely a huge factor to why the community is so negative. I mean, if you look at StarCraft, even better example, for the most part, the competitive scene, at least, it's a 1v1. So you can't blame anyone but yourself. I mean, sure, you can blame Blizzard for putting in, 100 or what was it, 250 millisecond input lag, but you get used to that over time. You can only blame yourself. That's where Dota kind of strays off, and I think that is a huge hurdle for Valve to try to remedy. But it should be interesting to see what they do. And I mean, one of the reasons we did Dota Cinema, aside from, just as a hobby, was to try to make the learning curve not so steep for people. And I think it's done a decent job. It's pretty hard to remedy it completely, though.
Yeah, I had a really hard time learning how to play the game to the point where I would just get frustrated because I kept getting killed over and over and over again.
When did you start playing?
Oh god, I started a few months ago.
Oh, okay. And you never played the original Dota.
Never.
What was your experience as far as MOBA, or I hate saying MOBA, scratch that, ARTS, action RTS, or Dota style games?
I had tried League of Legends once before and it wasn't my cup of tea. And my friend told me about Dota 2 and she said it looks cool. And when she described to me what kind of game it was, I was just, I don't know. Like I'm not into like the RTS games.
Right.
And she got me a invite to play the game, so I decided to play it because she was nice enough to get me an invite, so I played it. Got extremely pissed because I kept dying.
Yeah, that happened.
Got yelled at a lot for not knowing what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah, that's also happened. You kind of have to have thick skin, and that's I mean, even when it comes to me as I don't want to call myself a celebrity, but definitely known within the Dota 2 community, but there's a lot of criticism comes with it on top of the hate that comes with Dota 2 in general. So you have to have really thick skin for this type of thing. And for some people it's just not their cup of tea, but you're talking about you don't like RTS, but that's the good thing about Dota. You don't have to have a background in RTS. You don't even have to like RTS or even RPGs. It's kind of like a mix between the two, the best of both worlds, I like to say. So it's definitely something people should try. And if people don't know already, it's going to be free to play. Right now it's in closed beta, so technically you have to buy it or have somebody give you a key. But otherwise, you can just wait for the release whenever that is and get it for free. Try it out. But know what you're getting into beforehand. I mean, good lord, you don't want it to hit you like a ton of bricks because that would be bad.
You just described my experience in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty much 99% of people's experience.
But
Luckily for me, luckily for me when I started Dota, I mean, I didn't know what I was. I mean, I played Warcraft 3, so I was actually used to seeing those kind of heroes. But in Warcraft 3, ladder, the heroes are so much more durable. So I'd just be really over aggressive and just get killed a bunch of times. But luckily for me, I had a lot of friends that already knew how to play that, kind of helped me through my terribleness.
well, yeah, after months of playing, I've become decent-ish.
I will say that Dota 2 is it's an interesting game to say the least as far as how well it's going to do, and I'm pretty excited actually.
Now, is there a guide for a certain hero that you cannot wait to make?
Centaur. Got to wait for him to come out though, unfortunately. If there was a certain guy that I really wanted to, I guess, see, I don't want to come out with all my favorite heroes right away because if I do that, then I'm going to dread doing everybody else. I kind of want to space it out a little bit. So I'll say Huskar, I think, is pretty fun. I like playing Huskar. Or actually, let's say Doombringer. He's a lot of fun. That'll be a good guide to do. But got to space it out. Got to get some agility and some intelligence in there as well.
Now, what other games do you play? Are you purely a PC guy, or do you also dabble in consoles?
Haven't really. I used to be console before I got into PC. It's kind of weird. Like up until eighth grade, I was hardcore console. Mortal Kombat. I mean, if people watch any of the top tens, they can definitely see some console type. Actually, I guess both PC and console game uh, type deal. We have a Toasty comment. I don't know if you've ever seen the top tens, but anyway, if we get a Sunstrike, there's a Toasty, and it's from Mortal Kombat. Used to be obsessed with that game, but ever since eighth grade, introduced to Half-Life, I've been PC and pretty much only PC, and I never understood how people could play FPS games on console. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I keep telling people this, and it may seem kind of elitist, or I don't know what it sounds like, but it's completely true. You take an average PC Call of Duty player, put him against the best in the world console COD player, and the console guy will get absolutely destroyed. No question. You're just completely limited by the controller, and I just never understood that. But certain games, on the console are infinitely better than on PC, such as fighting games, simulation, and sports by far. But I don't play those much anymore, unfortunately. Not enough time.
What can you say is your favorite game
Of all time
of
or
all
now?
time? Of all time, I think now would be
Oh
Dota
boy.
2.
Yeah, now would be Dota 2. Wow, that's a tough one. One came to my mind immediately, so I'll just stick with it. And one of the reasons is because was never able to beat it. To this day, I've even tried using emulators and I cannot beat it. It's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on Nintendo. The most fun, best memories, and I just could never beat Tyson. I think I got to Tyson like twice in my life, and he just pounded me. He raped me like a little girl. So that's the one that comes to my mind. Like, I don't know, like other games, Mortal Kombat 4 was my favorite of the Mortal Kombats, but I remember the original. It came out and I was so excited. I literally cried when my parents got it for me. But then they told me, "Oh, you can't play for like 5 days because we're going overseas." And then I cried for sadness right afterwards. It was definitely a memory that stuck with me. But yeah, definitely Mike Tyson's Punch Out. You ever played it?
Yeah, I the Punch Out without Mike Tyson though.
Oh, that's the rip-off Mike Tyson, or the Punch-Out. Yeah, that's the one after he got arrested. They're like, hey, we should re-release this game without Mike Tyson. Yeah. I don't think I ever played Super Punch-Out either. It didn't look as good. It just went downhill. Like, you can never, emulate the original. It's just too good.
Bald Bull was my kryptonite when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Pirates or ninjas?
Pirates or ninjas? Ooh, that is a tough one. I'm gonna say ninja because I hate Pirates of the Caribbean. I never liked any of those movies, and people seem to love them, which makes me hate them even more. Ninjas, Ninja Gaiden, for example, or Gaiden, or however you're supposed to say it. I like Gaiden. That's a good game. That was a good game back in the day. So let's say ninjas for sure.
What kind of movies or TV shows does SUNSfan like?
Oh God, there's so many, bro. Oh man. So I will say, I was telling you this before we started recording. Uh, I'm currently watching, or I just finished watching all the seasons of Californication, which I don't recommend for people that can't put up with really raunchy stuff. It's the most raunchy show I've ever seen in my life. It's almost like watching a porn a lot of the times. Uh, Not one of my favorites of all time, but it had its moments for sure. But wow, I would say Game of Thrones is amazing. Dexter is probably my favorite show currently. Oh, it's just really sad that it only has 10 episodes or whatever it is. Um, Probably favorite of all time has got to be Seinfeld. I don't think there's any competition, not even close. Seinfeld is just too good of a show. It's always going to be funny. I see the reruns. I've even met people. I feel so old because I meet people that are like in high school or in college even, and they've never even heard of Seinfeld. I'm like, am I really that old? Like seriously, classic.
What about in terms of movies?
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like movies like Transformers. I hate action movies with terrible stories, or better yet, terrible dialogue. I'm not really one of those movie buffs that is a real stickler for that kind of thing, but when it's complete garbage, it's just complete garbage. I can't overlook it. Um, but I would say, I don't know, like Matrix and V for Vendetta, or I should say the original Matrix, the other two were garbage. Original Matrix and V for Vendetta are two of my favorites. And I do like chick flicks, though, I will say. Like my favorite movie of all time, I don't know if you can constitute it as a chick flick, is Garden State. Best movie ever. And yeah, I mean, I like a wide range of movies, though. So, in fact, for people that go to the theater, I would recommend seeing, what's it called? Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Have you seen that?
No, I don't go out a lot.
Oh, that's too bad. But it looked okay, and then I watched it, and it was the best movie I've seen all year, and it got terrible reviews. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You don't get out much, bro. What's the deal? Going to the movies, like, it's not even doesn't even feel like going out. You're still in, you know?
But that's the thing. Like, I don't like movie theaters because of the environment mainly. Because in my town, it's full of douchebags and assholes, and they
Mm,
either talk throughout the movie, or it's just they're like on their cell phones texting and crap, and
mm.
it's just really annoying. Last time I went to the movies was on Halloween of 2011, and I saw Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters?
Yeah, they released Ghostbusters for Halloween, and
Oh wow.
I went to go see it because that's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, that's a good. It's a trilogy, right? If I remember right.
No, there's only two.
What? Oh, that they're making a third. That's
Yeah,
what it is. Okay, yeah, those are definitely classic. But I have to agree. One of my biggest, I have a ton of pet peeves, but my biggest pet peeve is people talking during a movie. I can't stand it. And I will let them know my feelings if it gets to that point. But luckily I'm in an area where that doesn't happen as often. So I feel bad for you, bro. You're missing a lot of good movies.
yeah. Plus, it's hard to go out without a car. So
Oh, well, that sucks.
yeah,
Take that bus, tell you what. It's all good. Public transportation, man. That's what it's there for.
no lie, there are no buses here in my little part.
Where in God's name do you live?
I live in a small town in Texas called Far, and the nearest bus is like the next town over, which is like 10-minute drive away, and I can't walk because I have a busted foot.
How'd you bust your foot?
I broke my heel about 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. So it's never healed fully or what?
I can walk normally, but it took 3 surgeries, but it still hurts
Mm.
like hell after a while.
Well, not that it's comparable, but if it makes you feel any better, I did break my my ankle once at a LAN party. So probably the first and only time that will ever happen to anybody. The safest environment possible. SUNSfan happens to break his leg or his ankle or whatever.
Okay,
Good
I've got to
times.
hear this story.
Oh, it's not as good as it sounds. Well, okay. Let's see. I was at this was like in high school. Um, I went to a LAN party with my friend, and basically everybody there was all people that he knew, and I didn't feel too comfortable. It was Counter-Strike LAN. Of course, I was the best one there, but that's beside the point. During the middle of the LAN, they all wanted to pull a prank on somebody that was nearby. So they're like, okay, we're all going to get in this big box, or a couple of us are going to get in this big box, ring the doorbell, and I'll pop out and scare the crap out of somebody, give somebody a heart attack. So everybody's like, oh, that's such a good idea. And of course, I'm just this antisocial piece of garbage. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go. And everybody hops into this pickup truck. I'm hopping on, and he starts going while I'm on the end of it. So I'm like, oh God. So I'm hanging out at the back, which it's not like it's not that safe, but whatever. I was very scared and very I was a very innocent, cuddly little kid, actually, now that I think about it. Uh, but the guy in the residential, he's going like 40 miles per hour, and I'm getting really scared. So while he's driving, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna try to get in the back of the bed of this truck. Like, I just, I can't hold. I probably could have held on, but I just didn't feel comfortable for whatever reason. So felt like it was a good idea to put my leg over, try to get in, and of course, just as I do that, he hits the brakes and then hits the gas again, and I just do a somersault off the pickup truck, get a nice little concussion, and break my fibula, which is in my ankle. And that was a summer of hell, I must say, because I also had the shingles that summer, which is not pleasant, especially when it's in your armpit.
Oh,
Horrendous. I smelled pretty like you couldn't even use deodorant. It hurt so bad. So I was smelling horrible. I was gonna say something racist, but I'm not going to. I tend to do that too many times. So smelled terrible. Let's just say that.
what are some movies? What are some movies, video games, TV shows that you just dislike?
Um, well, video games, Diablo. Honestly, Blizzard games have gone really downhill, and I'm really, really, really disappointed in them. They've kind of, ever since they joined up with Activision, it's just been complete garbage. Uh, like for example, I touched on earlier, the 250 millisecond delay to make it quote unquote even for everybody it's just beyond ridiculous in my opinion. But they're doing quite well, so it doesn't matter, I guess, what I think. As far as movies, I think I already touched on just action with no dialogue. TV show. Is that what you said? TV show?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. What do I hate? I don't know. I really don't know, actually. I tend to, it's actually my problem. People suggest shows like, oh, you're gonna love this show. I'm like, oh, okay. And I download it, and of course, I become obsessed with it, and I watch every single episode of every single season within like a week. Like, for example, Lost. Just as it was wrapping up, like not too long ago, like what was it, 2 years ago now? Like it was in this last season, finale was about to come up, and I'd never watched even an episode. So I started watching it, became obsessed, and I watched every single like this took forever. It felt like forever. It took like a week and a half of non-stop watching to finish all the freaking episodes. So that's kind of like an issue with me that I get obsessed with these shows. So I try not to start new ones, but I always fail inevitably.
Have you seen the Walking Dead yet?
Oh yeah, that's good. Well, not to spoil it for anybody, but it started to get pretty meh towards the end. But I'll watch the next season, see how it transpires. But yeah, it's a good show. Has good ideas. I think part of the issue, to be honest, was they were so surprised with their season one success that they kind of panicked. I don't want to say they panicked, but it feels like their story kind of got out of hand into not the ridiculousness, but it just got a little sloppy, I guess, in the last season. But I think they'll turn it around. Why do you like that show?
Yeah, I like. I love that show. I even like the comic.
I didn't even know they had a comic.
That's what it's based off of.
Oh, well, there you go. I know nothing of the thing, of anything, so.
Now, what is something interesting that the fans don't know about SUNSfan?
Oh, man. Well, I'm gonna have to use the same thing I used in our weekly update, which barely nobody watches, so it'll be new to most people. I was born overseas, in the Middle East, actually, and I lived there for 10 years. I'm half Persian and half American, and I've been to over 25 countries. And I hate traveling. I hate planes. I was taken on planes all my life, especially through 0 through 10 years, and I just have memories of throwing up constantly in airports, dirty, dirty airports in the Middle East, and not good times. So I haven't really traveled a whole lot since, but I mean, I think it's pretty cool because you learn a lot about culture, and I mean, not that I am that cultured, but I mean, being half Persian, I know a lot about at least the Persian culture. So just cool little things that a lot of Americans kind of overlook from time to time because we are the quote unquote world power kind of thing. So kind of doesn't matter to them. But I think it's cool to know, you know, different things about different cultures or countries and whatnot.
Do you know any Persian?
Yeah, a little bit. I make fun of myself all the time because I lived in the Middle East for 10 years, which actually I lived specifically in Saudi Arabia, and being half Persian, it's close to Iran, so I can count from 1 to 10 in Arabic, even though I lived there for 10 years, and my Farsi, which is Persian, is, for lack of a better word, horrendous. So I know no other languages other than English, aside from, like I said, a little bit of Arabic, okay amount of Persian, and then enough to order something from Taco Bell with Spanish. So that's about it.
But I'm in the same boat as you in terms of being horrendous at language, because I'm half Mexican and my mother is straight from Mexico, and my dad knows more Spanish than I do, and I barely know enough to communicate with my own grandmother, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. How close are you to the border?
Half an hour.
Wow. Okay, that's yeah, that's it's pretty good, bro. I mean, I'm like I live in Phoenix, so I'm like 2.5 hours from the border, and I've been to Rocky Point a few times, but you don't really need to know too much Spanish for that. You're just like, oh, I want taco. They know what that means. Yo quiero taco. I like your taco. I don't know why I talk like Russian accent, but I like Russian for some reason. But yeah, you kind of you have to want to learn it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I never did until recently, and it's not even important to be honest for me anymore. But it's a cool thing to know a second language. You can make fun of people without them knowing. I mean, that's something I've missed out on all my life, unfortunately.
No, aside from playing Dota 2 and watching movies and such, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Well, at the current time, I recently moved to a section of Phoenix that is remote, so there's nothing to do anyway. So all I do is Dota 2 stuff. But previously, I'd go to movies a little bit more often. I used to play basketball a decent amount, but I'm really out of shape now. It's probably embarrassing to watch me play basketball. I actually get tired in the warm-ups, as sad as that sounds. Like I'm like, all right, let's shoot around a little bit, and I'm tired by the time it ends. I'm like, I can't play, too out of breath. But I am, as my name would suggest, I'm a huge Suns fan. So I'm completely and utterly obsessed with them. And there's a lot of moves going on currently in the NBA. So big NBA fan overall, though. And anytime I'm not doing Dota 2 related stuff, I'm probably on ESPN or some NBA site just looking at stuff.
Is that your main thing? NBA is no NFL or baseball?
NFL to a small degree. I really like it. It's just I don't really have a team to root for. The Cardinals just suck balls every year, and they're destined for mediocrity. So I don't care as much. I'm I would say I'm definitely not bandwagon when it comes to NBA. I'm just hardcore Suns fan no matter what. But when it comes to NFL, I can be a bandwagon jumper. But I really do like the sport. Baseball, I cannot stand. Hockey, I cannot stand. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up the American sports, I guess.
All right, last question before we wrap things up. Where do you see yourself in the future? Say 5 or 10 years. And where do you see
Oh,
Dota in the future?
that's a good question. For me, that is the probably a tougher question to answer because one thing I'll say is that over the years I've had quite a few jobs. Let's just say that I'm not like a bum. Well, I guess some people consider me a bum because I couldn't hold a job, but mainly because of disinterest and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I hope this doesn't go off in too big of a tangent, but I was going for my master's in college. For some reason, I ended up dropping out. And the day I figured out that I didn't want to do it anymore, I emailed. This is gonna sound so stupid. I emailed Ice Frog because they had just announced that, or he had just announced that he'd be working with Valve. Like I didn't know what the project was going to be. A lot of people hoped it was going to be Dota 2, but nobody knew what it was. So I emailed him saying, "Congratulations on your blob on working with Valve and whatnot. I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan." And I actually asked him life advice because I was in like a time where just soul searching, and everybody goes through it at some point or another, and I was going through it at that time. And I was shocked. Literally, I was shocked that he responded to me. And he basically gave me some advice, just do what you love, because he loves to do programming. I was basically asking him how he got into it. Because I just love programming. I'm like, okay, I definitely don't like programming, so I won't continue with this degree. And I'm just going to start doing stuff I love. So I ended up getting just some crappy job at GoDaddy for the time being. And I was playing Heroes of Newerth at the time, and I started casting, and it just grew into something that people really enjoyed. In fact, I was doing casting with Reeves and a guy named Xenoside. It was like a triple, we call it a tripod casting. It was actually just comedy. It wasn't real casting. It was just complete comedy, and we had a decent amount of fans, and from there, somebody noticed me at Honcast, which is the main casting site for Heroes of Newerth. It was actually Phil the Thrill that noticed me, or us, I should say, and he brought us on the Honcast for a while, and we got paid a little bit, not a huge amount, but it was a good start. And we got flown out to California to cast the NASL, which was awesome. I ended up casting a little bit at the finals as well, and I met Day 9. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride of amazingness. And then, of course, we already talked about how I got involved with Dota Cinema. So the question is, now that I'm getting to answer your question, where do I go from? Where am I 5, 10 years from now? I have no idea. Like if I can continue to do what I'm doing now, that would be amazing. Because I mean, I don't do. I feel like I don't. Although I do a lot of work, I don't feel like I'm working a lot of time because it's just like a dream job kind of deal. But hopefully it'll evolve into more things. I mean, the only thing I really knew, and I can tell this to anybody that is asking for life advice or career advice or anything, the only thing that I knew I wanted to do, no matter what, and I could never be specific with it, it was always the same thing over years. I just wanted to be involved in some fashion with esports to help it grow to become something like what you have in Korea with StarCraft, or with like poker, for example, in the US, where it's on TV on freaking ESPN, for God's sake. It's poker, for God's sake. So I want to help it grow to that point one way or another, and who knows what avenue I'm going to have to take to do that. But Dota Cinema is definitely a good way to start. As far as the game itself, 5 to 10 years. The good thing about Dota 2, if Dota is any indication, the game is going to have a really, really, really long lifespan. Like, I'd say typically successful games last maybe 2 to 3 years. Dota 2, I would be shocked if it doesn't go past 5 years. I think it's easily going to go past 5 years because it's got a lot of, well, first of all, great people working at Valve and the community and whatnot, and the game itself is just has so much to offer. And it's one of those games where you just continue to update things. You add new heroes, you add new mechanics, and things like that. So I'm not going to say exactly where we're going to be 5 to 10 years as far as Dota 2 is concerned, because my extreme optimistic side says I wanted to get to StarCraft 2, but in my realist probably says it's not going to get to Dota, or it's not going to get to StarCraft 2 status, but if we can be the second game to StarCraft 2, I'm pretty content with that, to be honest.
All right, SUNSfan, I'd like to thank you for your time once again.
Thank you. It was fun.
And for all you watching at home, check out dotacinema.com for guides, previews, the top 10s, and fails of the week. And follow Dota Cinema on Twitter so that you can get updates whenever they release new videos. Like them on Facebook. Do you have a personal Twitter or anything that you like to plug?
Nope. Just I'd say our Facebook has the most activity along with Twitter, since it just copies what Facebook does. But so facebook.com/Dota Cinema. And honestly, not to start talking again, but our site is, I'll be first to say, it's completely useless. The dotacinema.com is completely useless aside from submitting like fails or top 10 clips. But that's going to be changing, and not much more to say on that other than hopefully in a couple months we're going to have a brand new site with all new content. So I'd say for now, if you want to check out any of our videos, just go to youtube.com/Dota Cinema.
And For all you watching me on ScrewTech, subscribe to me on ScrewTech and follow me on Twitter at NathanGraves989 so that you can find out who the next guest is going to be on the Nathan Graves Show. And that's going to do it for this week. Thank you all once again for joining me. Big shout out to SUNSfan for joining me once again. And tune in next Wednesday to listen to me and my next guest. So, this is Nathan Graves 989 signing off.